So what I'm going to do is take you from the left-hand side through to the right-hand side. So can you see, and I need someone to give me voice feedback so I can see where my pace is. So if you look in the middle box, there's grey silver boxes in the execution. There's two boxes there, tactical and technical. Everyone connect to them.
Yeah.
So in essence, most reviewing for most coaches, I'm going to generalize here, but this is over 30 different sports globally, is we spend a lot of energy on coaching courses and a lot of energy with our athletes discussing a tactical choice or the execution. Now, there is value in that, but the problem is often the source of an issue is not that they chose the wrong tactic or committed to the wrong choice or execution. It's why did they? And it's the source of the issue. As good coaching, we need to identify it, but importantly, we need to get them to identify it, and then we can put interventions to help. So I'm going to give you some story examples in sport, and then I'll take you through the left-hand box of decision making. So even at World Cup in soccer, World Cup in rugby, NBA basketball, Major League Baseball, let's keep to the team sport. So let's say NBA basketball. Often what you'll find is that when things aren't going well for somebody, they stop scanning. So the scanning is them looking out, them looking at all the opportunities, the threats, look where the space is, look where their teammates are, on and off the ball before they get the ball. So now they're seeing where their options are, even before they get there. And that's based on good scanning. But if things don't go well, they could start that negative self-talk. Their state could start to be either angry, frustrated, could be at the umpire, the referee, could be anything. Could be they've just missed a tackle and they're thinking about that. So as soon as their state goes, their scanning, instead of being really open and wide, it starts to shut down. They get into a cone. Now the problem with that is now they can't see all the options. So they'll do two things now they can't see all the options. They'll either just commit to an option they can see, or they'll go in autonomous mode and they'll just commit to their normal go-to option. Now you're still on the sideline now thinking, why on earth are you doing that? But it's because their state's gone, they're not scanning, so they can't see all the options. Now, imagine if their scanning is good, they can identify some options, but they can't see all of them. That could be their game IQ, their match IQ, their understanding of the game. So even if you're seeing an option, they may not see it. It could be they're thinking, coach doesn't let me do these options. What does coach want me to do now? So they're doing what they think coach wants, as opposed to seeing the best option. And then the next thing is committing to it. So that box where it says variable influences, this is the game changer box at world and performance level. The difference between the great athletes and the good athletes is in that box. So good athletes could still scan quite well. They could see all the options, but they may just go for the option that the coach wrote on the whiteboard or the coach pointed to at a video. The problem is the human elements. So great athletes can spot, okay, my teammates, so if we look at capability combinations, that just means whoever on the pitch or the court with at the time, we have a team capability. But if one player changed out to a higher or lesser individual capability, that would impact our team capability. It may impact as well. I haven't spent a lot of time with that player, so I can't anticipate and read that player as well as another player. So I may not choose the best choice for that player, or they may not anticipate I'm going to pass the ball over there, I'm going to move into this space, because they're not anticipating it. They may be too late. So the human variables are my teammate capability, then it's the opposition capability, and then it's a capability in the moment. Is someone losing their head? Are they fatigued? So they might make this pass when they're fresh, but they wouldn't make it now. So I'm not going to choose that option. I'm going to choose this option. Or I've got somebody on the opposition that's really fast, strong. They will shut that option down. So I'm going to choose this option. I've got someone weaker on the opposition. I can see their head is down. This option is now on. Now I'm choosing this option. So the variable influences are huge. Now, if we go back to what we were discussing with the 3 people that came up, one of the common issues is that we don't train software. Now, if you look at all the green boxes so far and the decision making, that's software. That's the thing that makes you choose a choice, a tactic. Then it's the execution, the mentality of committing without fear to the choice I made, and then it's the execution. The execution is your hardware. And then you look to the right-hand boxes is the live reviewing. That means the first, I can get an athlete and I can train this in athletes, and we're training from 7-year-old up. I can review straight away. Did I commit? If I didn't commit, the rule is I can't review. Because the next time all I've got to do is commit, because there's nothing to review. Now, if I did commit, then I review live. How's my choice? How's my execution? And then I get to this, which completes the cycle of learning live, on pitch, on court. So as a single athlete, I'm either going to get to next time on a solution, not a problem, next time I'm going to do that again, or next time I'm going to do this. Not that went wrong, I need the solution to change if I need to change. If it's next time I've got to make sure that I understand the words to say to my teammates around me, that they understand, and they understand their role if I call that action for next time, which can be those tactical adjustments live. Now, even if it's the next time I still want to let my teammates know, hey, I'm recognizing what it is, I'm going to do this next time. So they're not thinking, why is Mark making that choice? I need to start covering him now because I'm not sure he knows what to do. So it's giving my teammates confidence. Once I've concluded, I go straight to the other side again. And what's next simply means I'm present again. I'm scanning. Where are my opportunities, threats? So this is what I call the action review process that you can teach explicitly every single one of your athletes. Now, why is this so important? It's because it will speed up their reviewing, but also it will give you a framework and a language that they understand and you understand to get them to review very, very quickly. So I'll give you an example, then I'm going to share with you if I've lost you or you want clarity. An option could be, I've got a single athlete, they're on the sideline and I want them to go on next as a sub, as a swap. So I'm going to get them to stand next to me. I'm going to go, okay, what are you seeing? Look over there, what are you seeing? It'll be relevant to the opposition or their position. And then they're telling me, this is what I'm seeing, coach. And then I'm saying, okay, so what options are you identifying? So now, because I'm seeing we've got this option, this option. Okay, so what's going to influence our choice? Well, we can't do that because of this, so that's the best way to do it, is eliminate. It's not that because of this, it's not that, we're left with this. This is what we should go for. I can get them to watch the match or the court live to get them engaged for learning, but also get them ready to when they go on. So I can go, if you're on, what would you be seeing? What would you be doing now in that situation? So now I'm priming them. I can also shout from the sideline and shout a name on it, and if they've learnt this, they're just going to give me the right-hand box. They're going to say, next time I'm doing that, next time we're doing this, nailed it, or, yeah, just on this. And I'm just listening, and it's a thumb up. Then I can scan for next opportunity, are they going to do it? If they come in for a group, I can just go, okay, review. Now they should be going, right, this is what we saw, this is what we're doing. It wasn't working, so we adjusted this. Now you're listening because you've scanned, and you're thinking, I agree. I disagree, and then we can go in and challenge. Well, hang on, what if this happens? Okay, well, I saw this differently. This is what I saw. Or it may be they're thinking, coach, we don't know. We tried this. We committed to this. I'm not sure. Then we can go, okay, so remind me what we agreed. What's our philosophy or what's our principles? Or if you've got less time, you go, okay, guys, this is what you're missing. It's this element. Now you know that what's our option to go for. It's this. And if it's even tighter, you go, I'm hearing you. This is what you're missing. This is what we need to do next time. And then we finish always with the player last, which I'll discuss at the end of our chat, which is under pressure, whatever we do, it's always player last. And what that means is, even if I said you're going to do this, even if they've said we're going to do this, if I've interacted with them, the very last people that speak are the people that are going to go and do it. All I ask is, so what have we agreed? Or what are you going to commit to? And then I'm listening to them tell me. So now I know, imagine a boxer in a ring that's getting pummeled. They sit down on the corner. The coach is giving them loads of info. They're just nodding. We don't know where their head is. So what we need from them is, imagine we're still in the boxing scenario, even if I spoke to them about stuff. But that last 30 seconds, I need to be going, okay, so what are you going to do? And now they have to tell me. If they're telling me, I know they're engaged. It's connecting. If they're just looking at me and going, oh, what was it again? I know they're not engaged. They haven't connected. So that conversation's been a waste of time. So you can see already there's more to it than this, but that's the basics of the action review process, that now you can frame questioning and reviewing live with them. So I'm going to just take it down now for a second, and then I'm going to ask you your thoughts. Can you see that still, or can you see me now? How are we doing? Someone want to come up and speak?
Try and reference it to your sport and your game so you can get a bigger picture for you.
So am I just saying what I understand?
Yeah, well, you understand from me, yeah. Mark will help you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what I understood from that was that it's a process to encourage players to think through their decisions and make choices that they can commit to. So whether you're there on the sideline and like say it's football, you're about to put the next guy in because you have a player that's tired. You're talking to them. You're like you said, what do you see? What options do you think you should take? So it's really just leading them down, like you said, a framework that both of you guys understand, and leading them down and talking them through it, so they know how. It's giving them a way to process how they want to think, like making decisions, and they're leading them in a way that you both understand where you guys are going, and so you're just encouraging them to use their eyes and not just see just a superficial, but think ahead, like think about, like you said, the capabilities, think about how this guy, what is he capable of doing? What's this other guy capable of doing? What's his mindset? Is he tired? Is he fatigued? Is he still ecstatic to go? Does he have like a losing mindset? Just taking accountability, take account of everything, and then focusing on an option that they can take, and whether they have this, not just like they have the thought process and the skill to actually implement that task. And then you review if they committed to it or they were hesitant. And that's basically, that's all I have for now.
So what's your name?
LaShawn.
Okay, really good absorption there. So good gold star for you. A couple of elements to this, just linking to what you said, and then I'm going to ask you to delve into some others, is we practice this under no pressure so they can learn it. So every time they come in for a timeout, every time we're doing a hot one-to-one, we're going through the same language. We share with them the value. So then, when they're not under pressure, they get used to. Now when I run into coach, I can't just stand there and go, what does coach want to hear? Or I'm going to listen to coach now. Because actually, no, you're not going to listen to coach. Because I already know the answer as coach. I want to know what you know. I want to know what you're seeing. I want to know your game IQ. I want to know your judgment. And now I know that. Now I can help you, whether you're right or you're wrong. So straight away now, it's getting them to understand, if we begin with the end in mind, that Stephen Covey saying is, I want you to be confident and competent on a pitch, on a court, under pressure, to make the best decision possible with your own capability and with the capability of your teammates and what's in front of you. So if you're relying on me to give you the answers, I'm inhibiting to get you to become the best athlete you possibly can. So this is why if we teach the action review process, we still have the fast track under pressure where we can go, hey, it's this. But we have that player last at the end where we're saying, okay, so what are you going to do? What are you going to commit to? So we know it's gone in. We know they understand it. So can you now see the texture? And can you ask anyone in the room if anyone wants an example in another sport, they want clarity, or if there is any what ifs? You know the room, read the room, look around, see who you need to bring up. Let's get discussion going. Let me help you now.
Marco, you wanna come and speak for a little bit? Ask for clarity, check your understanding, all that fun stuff.
What I did want to ask was, I know like it was all about options, like
Yeah.
letting the players recognize on the field like what options they have. Is there any way to like make that into like a drill, like for a practice or like an activity?
So what's your interpretation of the word drill?
Something putting them in like a game scenario.
Okay. So, yeah, so we just need to be clarified with everyone in the room because I haven't met you guys before. Everything we do, if it's a sport where there's decision making, we need decision making within it. Even if it's a breakout, even if it's a half pitch, half court. We should never do a drill where in a sport where there's decision making where there is no decision making because we're wasting their time. So the answer is yes, you can. An example would be you would take both teams away, split them in half in a practice environment, and you would give them a challenge where you go, okay, what I'd like you to do is identify, we're going to play, I want you to identify the strengths and weaknesses of the opposition, and then I'm going to call a timeout, go back into your groups, you do this with both sides, and then I'll give you a minute, and you can give them a board, and you can say, right, I want you to then write down what did you recognise as their strengths or weaknesses, and what strategy are you going to commit to based on what you've seen. They all then agree it, they write it on the board, literally 60 seconds, and they go out and apply it. So within 2-3 minutes, you're scanning now, you've watched the board, you've read the board, you've listened to them, you're now scanning to see are you committing to it. The next thing we're looking at is, did they commit as the first question? If they did, is it working? Are they now recognising it's not working? Are they adjusting it? Because the opposition clearly have done the same. So then you give them 3 minutes or so, and then you bring them back into the board, and you say, first question always is did we commit to what we said? If the answer is no, they need to be nailing that down. Why not? If the answer is yes, then we can say, did it work? Now they go, no, because we needed to change this. Did you change? Great. So what next? So when we start doing that now, we're still getting them to start using the action review process. This is what we saw. This is what we identified. These are the options. This is what we're going to go for. But then we get them to commit to what they agreed and then review or adapt live. So what we do then, we can bring it down to 30 seconds where they're coming in. Then we bring it down to 10 seconds. Then we go, right, there is no timeout now. Where the ball's moving, you've got to communicate live and decide what you're going to do. So we're scanning this the whole time. So if an example would be, and tell me if I'm going too deep, but we're scanning now. When they come in for the group chats and we're spotting it's 1 or 2 people doing all the talking, then I call them ninjas. They're the people that are quite dominant. So I whisper in their ear and say, right, next time that you come in for one of those timeouts, I don't want you to be leading it because I love the fact you're leading it, but can you get the others involved and can you ask them what they think, what they saw, relevant to the situation? So if it's in soccer, if it's a defender, we want the defender talking about the defence. Hockey, lacrosse, the same. If it's a goalie who sees a hole, we want them talking and not just the main leader or captain. So now we're getting them to start listening to others, because what we don't want is 1 or 2 players saying we're going to do this and not recognising others haven't understood it or others aren't capable of delivering it. So then when they go out, they can't commit to it. So that's one example how you can really get them to start building. Now you could make it really specific and you can say, right, we have this type of attack we're going against. The success for this session is I want you to find ways to break down this attack. And that is our success criteria for this session. And then all you do is you go, we're going to use the action review process to see if you can identify. Now, in live play, if you're recognizing someone is not scanning, you can just say, okay, for the next 2 minutes, I want you to shout everything you're seeing out loud so I can hear it. So now we've got someone off ball going, right, I'm seeing this. These are the options. I'm ready for this. because now we're recognizing the weakness for that person is they're not scanning, they're dropping in. So now we put an intervention in with that person. So it's the same as if you're seeing now someone scanning, but they're not identifying the options. You could then recognize, right, there's a game IQ issue with this team or this group of players. So then your breakout might be, right, let's go through this game IQ option. Let's understand our roles within this strategy or tactic. But you've identified it through that scanning game. Was that too much, or did that give you some solutions?
Yeah.
Sorry?
That was good. That was perfect.
Okay, so ask in a room, back to that action review process. Ask in a room, anyone for any sports. 2 questions. One is, are we connecting to how you can use it in your sport? Relevant to you guys in this room now, whatever sport you're picking. And secondly, where would you see the barriers?
All right, I got someone else coming up.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Are you all on wheelie chairs? Do you have like a warm-up game on wheelie chairs?
Hi, how are you?
I'm awesome. How are you?
That's great. I'm doing great. A question that I had, more kind of following more onto the barriers of, I guess, this like coaching style is like, I know in a lot of athletes, especially at like the high school, junior high level, they're receiving coaches that are going like in and out. You're not always under the same instruction. And so I feel like it's kind of difficult for the athlete to get a full grasp and understanding, because I feel like this is super interesting and it could very well like be beneficial to the athlete. But if they're not understanding what you're trying to lay down and provide for them, how you as a coach can kind of get that done for them so where they can benefit from it as well.
Now, I may not understand the question correctly, so I'll answer it as I understand it. Then you go, Mark, no, I want this bit. So the key thing is to remember is the only constant with an athlete is them as the person. They'll move teams, they'll move coaches, but they're the constant. So if we then can install a framework for them that will allow them in life, not just in sport, to make better judgment and decisions, whether that's doing your homework, time management, eating, action review process, we explicitly teach that. And then we say, whoever you're coaching, whoever comes and coaches you, you can still do this. And then we share with them, I'm giving you permission to eliminate any grey. So if a coach is asking you of something and you don't understand it, I'm giving you permission to just seek clarity. So coach, can I just seek clarity with this? So now we're giving them permission. Now, one of the challenges we'll always have is, when we're coaching, have we continued to support the action review process? Are we giving them space so they can think? Or are we shouting the answer because we're restricting the think? So that's on us. So we can't control other coaches, but could we put a framework in place that we can say, look, let's agree to all coaches that have them within our window. We'll always agree what success is with them. We'll always use player first, player last, is that we're going to speak first. We can delve into questions, and at the end, we always say, okay, so what have we agreed or what are you going to commit to? So now we're listening, and even if that happens and another coach comes in and they're doing that, it gives the athlete space to share their judgment, to think. But we explicitly teach it. I use a whole session and go, this session is to share with you the action review process. We share the value, we play a game, but the whole game is about learning the action review process. Then we say, next practice, anytime you go anywhere, you can still use this. Get up in the morning, go into bed. How many opportunities you got to practice this decision-making process? So now they're not seeing it, oh, it's just Coach Sarah or Coach Billy wants me to do this. They connect with this. Selfishly, in a positive way, this is helping me. This has helped me understand. This is helping me make decisions. So long as then if they're making a decision that's different to you would make, so long as you're not throwing things on the floor and swearing and, chucking out negative body language, so long as you're going, oh, that's interesting, they committed to a choice I wouldn't have chosen, then we can pull them over, even without stopping play, a little hot one-to-one. Can you just talk to me what happened over there? What did you see? And we listen. What options did you identify? We listen. What influenced your choice? We listen. All of a sudden now we're understanding how they're thinking. And now they're thinking, I can express my judgment to coach. As opposed to traditionally, we go, come over, and the players running, they go, what does Coach Sarah want to hear? And then we go, right, how was your communication? And they'll go, well, you asked, so therefore it can't be very good. No, I'm not very good, coach. Yes, so what are you going to do about it? So it's on us to give them the skills, but also then honor the skills to allow them to make judgment. Does that answer your question or not?
Yes, I was just kind of getting the, like, from them allowing you laying the foundation for it and then them being able to build off of that foundation, regardless of who they're around or what situation they're in.
Yeah. Our biggest mistake we have is when we learn these software critical elements to any high performer in business, in life, parenting, in sport, is we don't explicitly teach it. We try and sneak it in with the hardware. So you'll do a defensive session and you go, oh, I'm going to try and sneak in the action review process. No, the session is the action review process. Why? Because it's a game changer. I mean, if you, I'll ask you and then you can ask the room. Well, they might hear me anyway, but you can seek out of them. How many times when you're an athlete or you've watched your favorite team or you've coached a team where you've seen them not transfer what they did in practice that you thought they could do in practice into a match? How many times do we think we've done this 100 times in practice, why can't they do it in a match? How many times have you guys experienced or seen that?
I hear a lot of lots and a lot of hands.
Yeah. Now, the reason for that, there's a few reasons. One is they don't see the value in practice. The second element is we're not getting them to think we're giving them all the answers because we want to correct them, correct and reflect, but we're not letting them think. The third one is we're covering too many things, so we're not giving them time to embed the decision-making part of what we're doing. And the last one is when they're doing those things, we're not connecting it to the next session. We're covering it, then we're moving on because we've allocated 15 minutes. As opposed to, no, we are where we are, we're ready when we're ready. When I plan my practice session, even if I've got 6 elements, what's the number 1? What's the number 2 priority? What's the number 3? And I will never compromise 1 for 2. All the way down. So if I only cover 1, but I cover it effectively, then I'm successful. As opposed to, oh, I need to cover the 6. We need to move on. Well, we're moving on. We're not ready to move on. So we'll come into another session and we're going, why can't they remember that? I need to remind them. Well, you're reminding them because we haven't got them to connect. We haven't got the brains going. They haven't had the time. They're not seeing the value. So now we're having a problem where we start drilling things and we're shouting the answer and it looks great. But as soon as we go into match, they're not doing the decision making in practice. So they're just thinking, what does coach want me to do now? What's the right thing? As opposed to read the game. I've given you permissions. You've shown under pressure you can do these things. How was that for you?
That was great. Thank you.
Okay. See in the room who's got any more challenges or questions or inquisitive about the action review?
We have someone coming in right now.
Awesome. Thank you. Haven't we been here before?
Yes, we have.
Okay. Good.
So for me, one thing that stuck out was the what do we agree on portion at the end, and how if the players are talking, then that means they're engaged. If in a game scenario, a player has, I guess, misread or misunderstands what the agreement from the team is it okay if it's a situation where they have to go in and into the game right away, where we can correct them and tell them what our agreement originally was, because we don't have time to, I guess, allow for them to make that discovery on their own? Or is it still something we should try to guide them into?
Don't think of it as guiding, because guiding can be terrible. So what we want to do is we want to establish what they understand. And then if we identify a gap or grey, we provide clarity in where the gap is. But we first establish the gap, if there is one. So that's where the player first, player last still works effectively. I want to know, so it can be quick. Okay, so what have we agreed, or what does that look like? Now, if we're getting something inaccurate back, we can just say if it's time constraint, no, it's this connected with this. So, and then we always finish with play last. So what would that look like to you there? So what are you going to do there? You know, that's where the what ifs come in. So they're still connecting to, because if we shared with them in the first place and they didn't get it, by us sharing again, well, they didn't get it the first time, so we can share it 20 times. They're not going to get it. So we've got to, and this is where the craft of coaching comes in. We, over a period of time, very quickly, should learn the people that can pick things up very quick, the people that need it in simple words, the people we need to engage and get them to explain it in their words before they'll get it, and also the people that normally stood at the back and they're hardly ever interacting. Am I now asking them the question? Am I asking them? Am I doing hot one-to-ones during, where I'm just pulling out and go, okay, talk to me what happened over there, to help increase their confidence to share, to help increase their reflection, their decision making. Because some people, we won't have time to do it in groups. The play's going in practice, we can just pull someone out for a minute. We can help enhance their learning and understanding to prevent a lot of the issues where they're going, oh, I'm not sure, coach, because we've only chatted to them in the groups. Thoughts?
That helped a lot. Thank you.
Okay. What else? Come on. What else have we got in here? What else have we got where you want to sponge from the action review process? I've only shared one thing out of many things.
Mark, would you like to discuss some of your team interventions, like your 5-4-3-2-1s, your small groups, where you'll deal with assassins, you'll deal with ninjas, sheep, etc. Some ideas in those directions.
So that that first explanation of where we just get people to play and then they come in on a board and we're just observing the interaction. Okay, what did they see? What did they commit to, etc.? Are they committing to what they said? What we should be doing is scanning human behavior. We should be scanning and identifying, and you could do this now. You could write a list of players that you're coaching now and identify who are the assassins, who are the sheep, who are the ninjas. So a sheep is someone that can be influenced by anyone and will quite happily not ever challenge you and just tick along. You'll come in a timeout, they'll come out and you've asked them, does everyone understand? And they all nod. And then as they're walking away, they're asking a player, what is it coach wants? It's the sheep. So they can be pushed either way. And they're the people that if the game's not going well, will just go with the negative tide. They won't be instigators of change. You've got the ninjas, which are highly motivated and they want to do well. But if they're not skilled ninjas, they could get frustrated with other people that don't have the same work ethic or aren't as skillful or don't seem to pick it up as quickly, and they can get frustrated with them, and then how they communicate with them could be not skillful. Then you have the assassins, which are the people that either overtly or often covertly behind the scenes will try and prevent things from being successful. They don't like coach, or they're not getting picked, so they don't agree. They don't like doing this tactical defense, so they'll see if it doesn't work. They won't put in the time. They won't commit to the things that they need to do to get better. They'll always find an excuse, and they'll only do the things they want to do, and they'll try and get people on their side so that you've got someone else, an ally, that won't commit to what they need to do. So in the teams you've got now, immediately now, are there names that pop up that go, definitely an assassin, definitely a ninja, definitely sheep? In the room now, immediately, can you connect with people that you coach?
Anybody have any assassins in their teams that they could talk about without using names or anything like that? Their coach or their teammates that they're playing with. Yeah? Meadow? Come on. Okay. Don't use names, but give a global example for it.
Wait, sit right here.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so I coach volleyball, and recently we went to a tournament, and one of our girls pretty much just would go on the court because she wasn't starting, she pretty much would go in. She was still playing, but she would go in and just pretty much like suck up all like the positivity and like the energy. And like immediately whenever she would go in, like you could tell that like the energy and like their vibe pretty much just like changed because of like the way she would go in and like how she just like presented herself. And it wasn't just like one day, 2 days. It was like every single time that she would go in, like everyone's mood would just change. And she was never like excited for like a point or like energetic about anything. She pretty much was just like screaming at everybody, like, come on. And it was just like crazy.
So in practice, what's she like?
Um, I mean, she's very quiet. Well, she was very quiet at first. And then once the season like progressed, it kind of just, I guess like her attitude just got worse. And it was just like she just started screaming at people because of like her position. Like she was like a setter, so she had to get every second ball. So anything that wasn't like in her area, she's screaming at the girls like in not even like a good tone. It was just like a bad attitude. And so like it just
So,
progressed, carried on.
so what is she good at?
Um,
When she's in a good space, what is she good at?
she's what?
When she's in a good mindset, what's she good at?
Um, I mean, she communicates a lot, but she's not very like she doesn't get like super excited or like excited for anybody else if it doesn't involve her.
Okay, so let's just share a few interventions, just a few. Can you still hear me? Okay,
Yes.
awesome. So, and this is no order. These are just intervention options with somebody like that. So, first one you could do is you could do an indirect influencer. So what you could do is you could say, okay, can you help me lead on some of these things in practice? So we want to work on this type of defense element, whatever it may be, or, you know, a receive, whatever it is. Can you lead on that? Can you share where that is? And I'll give you 3-4 minutes. What would you like the session to look like for that? How would you like to share that? You know, can you share with me on some of the previous matches where we think we've done well on it and where we think we could improve? Would you be up for that? So that's one intervention. What we're doing there is we're getting them to scan the match, give her responsibility. So now her ego is supported, but we're doing it in a positive way. And then we're leading. We can see what the change in the interaction is. The other element, these are just different interventions. The other intervention you could do is you could ask her, again, the action of the action review process. We could ask her to look back at a match and just scan her interaction and where her movement is and no one else. And what we're asking them to do is, can you share there where you thought you were exceptional in how you communicated and if it had an effective impact, and where you communicated where it didn't have an effective impact. So we're looking at that 3 A's there, where if I'm saying something, the reason I'm saying something to a teammate is to have an effective impact. If it doesn't have the effective impact, then my communication was ineffective. So then we can get her to analyze and go, so my challenge to you would say, can we start to identify where you're seeing stuff? If she is, it sounds like she is seeing stuff that's correct, but how she's expressing it to some of her teammates may not be effective. Is, can we put the challenge on her there? So watch the video back, identify when you're exceptional and effective in how you communicated, because loved you saw those as an optional adaptation. Identify where you weren't, and then come up with a strategy of how you can be more effective in how and what you say with different athletes to get an impact. So now what we're doing again, we're getting them, without telling her you're negative, we're getting her to analyze her as an athlete and how she can influence people around her if her tactical understanding is effective. Back again to the action review process. So what do you think of those two options?
Yeah, I think I like those better instead of like just being like, hey, don't be like a certain way to like the girls. Because I mean, like we've had like so I'm like an assistant, so like our head coach and like I have like talked about it, and we've tried to address it, but not in that way. Like we were just kind of like, hey, like maybe for like the future, we can just steer away from like using negative tone or something like that. So I like that better, like just getting her to like recognize it like for herself and like in the game instead of just being like, hey, don't be this way.
Well, don't forget, we're getting them to recognise both sides and a strategy for success. And we're getting them to look in a way to help her enhance herself and enhance her teammates. So it's seen in a clinical, effective way. It's a bit like, you know, don't think of a chocolate bar. Well, your energy is in the don't. But what we want is we want our energy in the do, into the change, into the adapt. To how can I become more effective? But importantly, we're putting it on how can she help her team enhance, be more effective. So by her watching their own video, she may spot stuff that she's going, oh, that was pretty uncomfortable, what I did there. But we're not exposing her to it because we know we've highlighted it, but we're giving her a strategy for growth. And her leading on stuff might be a game changer. I've seen some fantastic leaders that were assassins because they just didn't feel they were listened to, or they didn't feel the coaches thought they were any good. You know, why am I getting picked? Now, there's a bigger question. I'm not asking you to answer this, but culture should be about the we and not the I. You know, we've all heard that, blah, blah, blah. But the reality is, have you defined with the team the lighthouse for the team? What is success for the team? What does it look like? What are the behaviors that align to us living this? And then the rule of three comes in. I know you've gone through that a bit in the 3 A's, but that process of what is excellence to us? What does that look like in practice, in a warm-up, when things don't go well? What does that look like to us? What does that look like into match? So if we're now saying it's about, and now we have that capability combinations as well, is getting them to understand there's not a starting, there's the first combination. But actually, to beat an opposition, we want them to get used to a tactic, and then us being able to switch capability combinations to give them a different tactic that they can't figure out yet. So that may be, and I'm not saying do this, but this is what some teams that build this do. You don't put your strongest team out of capability, but you build capability combinations in practice. So what you get is more depth then, but them understanding, just because I'm not starting, doesn't mean to say I'm not a game changer.
Yeah.
I'm serious because I now know, and now when they're on the side, we're giving them roles. So can you scan for this? Can you scan for that, particularly to the role? What are you seeing here? Okay, so can you help her when we come off to feed that in? And the other element is, so when I rotate you in now, what are you going to do? What are you seeing? What are the options? So now we're getting them engaged from the sideline, and all of a sudden now they're meaningful. They're not saying, oh, I'm not playing. So if we don't do those things, then we haven't built the culture that's going to allow it to be more successful. Is there any of those things where you feel you could enhance a little bit to what you're already doing?
Yeah, for sure. Like maybe giving her more like of a role when she's on the sideline instead of just thinking about like I'm not starting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was that useful?
Yes, it was.
To expand on your thoughts there, what happens when your parent is the assassin of the player?
So this is an important factor. We do this across all sports. Is one of the problems we have is we put fires out. We put fires out, and that would be a parent going, why are you coaching like that? Or why isn't my son or daughter being played? And we're trying to put the fire out in a moment. But what we haven't done is spent time at the beginning to share with them, this is why we're doing what we're doing. This is our lighthouse. This is how you can help. This is why when you watch practice now, if you do watch or a match, this is what we're doing in these things. Let me share with you every 4 weeks. This is our software focus. This will help your son and daughter be a better decision maker. They'll help them manage their state, make judgment, commit without fear, empathy with teammates, and get the best out of them. So this is what you'll see here. And then get them to connect with how that's going to help them in academia, how that's going to help them in relationships, how that's going to help them when they get a job. It's a glue that holds it together. So now the parent starts to see the sport in a different way. But I'll give you an example in golf where we did with England Golf. I shared this with the England Golf, and we said this was the amateur, so we had the age groups coming through. I said, if you're going to change the way you coach, and the environment and the culture. You need to share with the parents why they may see something different. So if you've ever played golf, traditional golf coaching, if you pay for a session, is you'll come in and you'll say, coach, I'm struggling, my ball's shooting off to the left. And the coach will give you a fix and go, oh, we just need to do this, and they'll take you through it, and they'll tell you what you're doing, they'll film it, and you go, right. And at the end of the session, you go, oh, that's great. And you'll wander off, and then the next time you play, something else will go wrong, and then you'll want to go to the coach for a fix. It's putting a plaster on things, which is no good for athlete and player development. So the principle, if we think we're using it now, what we've talked about at the actual review, a golf scenario would be when they've come in, you know, they've shown you what they're going to practice. So you're not with them when they practice. They then come back, and the first thing you do, you don't discuss with them, just say warm up, and then just show me how you've been practicing. And don't have a conversation about remind me what you were practicing, because that's a negative impact. I'm now scanning for where should have had 8 hours. They told me they had 8 hours practice. Does that look like 8 hours practice? If they can't even remember to focus, then I get stuck in a firm, fair and friendly way. Interesting observing that. Remind me how many hours you said you practiced, and they share. Okay, so align that to what you're seeing now. How committed were you to that practice? Because what I'm seeing now is not 8 hours of practice in a supportive way, because I want you to help you get better and deal with that issue. But then when they're swinging a club, they swing, and we don't tell them what's wrong or right. They say, yeah, committed. And then they go, nailed it, or I felt my hips come around a bit early. Then we show them the video. And now we go, do you still think the same? And then they look at the video and go, looking at the video, no, it's this. Then we can intervene, either agree or challenge. And then we go, so what's your focus? And they go again. So that's so different than traditional coaching. So we had, most of the coaches did share with the parents, this is why we're doing it different. It will help your son, daughter make better decisions in matches. But one coach did not. So the coach, very wealthy, successful businessman, was sat there watching the lesson with their son, and halfway through the session, he stopped the session, pulled the coach away and said, what are you doing? I'm not paying you to stand there. You should be in. You should be telling them what they need to do. Because the parents' idea of what good coaching was totally opposite to how this coach had changed how this coach was coaching. So now he's putting fires out. And he couldn't put the fire out because the parent had already made the decision up. So the story is meaningful because unless we spend time getting the parents to understand what our lighthouse is, understanding software and hardware, the impact of it, what they might see differently and how this can help, even what to say after a match, what are the right questions to ask the son or daughter and not go, did you win? Understanding why a scoreline is not an indicator of performance. What are the performance markers you can look for as an individual and as a team, and how we can give you that connection and let you know the next 4 weeks this is where our focus is going to be. So we're engaging parents as opposed to getting them to be a barrier because they're seeing the world differently than we want them to see. Have you thought about it like that, everyone, before? Have you got clarity with the differences there?
We've done the other courses that we teach. We go into parents, we go into these phases, how we bring the parents in as a third team, bring them inside the tent kind of thing. Show them purpose and offer them purpose as well as product. So that goes in nicely. I think we're going to be rolling out. Is there any way you'd like to conclude or roll through here, Mark?
Yeah, I mean, it's always very difficult because even on my online members area, there's 150 hours of this. So I've given you one snapshot of one element. The key point for all of this is the same as if you were athletes in front of me as I was a coach, is making sure if you've taken something from this that is going to enhance your coaching, that's going to enhance your athletes, before you walk out that room, you write down what actions you're going to take to either learn about it so you understand it, when you're going to share it with the athletes, how you're going to plan it in, how you're going to keep it alive, to enable them to actually embed it within how they're coaching. Because all of this is ideal unless we understand change is tough. unless we understand if I'm changing my coaching, this is not going to be easy for me, because when I get under pressure, I'm going to revert back. So if you're someone that likes shouting the answer out to the athletes, but you want them to think for themselves, you're part of the problem. So if you recognize the action review is a framework that can help you and them, you need to make sure the first few weeks you do it, you're not going to be brilliant at it, but actually share with the athletes, look, this is new to me, but I really see the value, but this is how you can help me. So if you shared it with them and they go, yeah, this makes sense, coach, you can give them permission to say, look, when you come in, if I just start shouting the answer at you again, and you can use any word, but an example word is, you can say pineapple to me. I'm giving you permission. If I'm now giving the answers, when we've agreed now, I want you to see if you can work it out. Just say, coach pineapple, and I'll step back. Because that's you helping me help you. So that type of relationship is still you being in charge, but you're aligned to go, we're now recognizing we can do better. And now there's information I know that can enhance what I do and you do. Do we see the value? Yes. Okay, well, let's work together to embed it in how we practice and then embed it in how we play. So under pressure now, we're more robust with better decision makers as a collective. So you won't do that unless you, right now, before you leave the room, write down what your learning is, where you need more clarity, and then what your strategy is to understand it and then start to embed it. And that's where your success comes from. Then give it 4 weeks where you go, let's give ourselves 4 weeks, share it with the athletes, where let's commit to this for 4 weeks to give it time to embed for us as human beings to be successful. Don't do it once and think it doesn't work and then move on to the next thing. We are where we are, we're ready when we're ready. And that's the key point of great coaching. It's a great point of leadership management and athlete development. Don't rush it.